Rock and roll. Wait, did I just say rock and roll again?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I'm here with Chris Sznewajs from Pacific Avenue Capital Partners.
You're the first one to get it wrong.
Sznewajs. Yep. Sznewajs. And Pacific Avenue was started in 2017. Chris came out of the kind of the Gores background, and so what we really want to learn is just his story. The way that I found out about you is that you posted on LinkedIn, then hit you up right after that, and just thinking, hey, let's do a video. I got to hear this story.
Yeah.
We
appreciate you reaching out.
I'm surprised you didn't delete it. I would. But what's your background? Maybe kind of before starting Pacific Avenue. Like, what's the background? Where are you from, and how'd you get here?
Yeah. So I grew up in the Midwest. I went to Indiana University, where I was an accounting finance major, and always had a slant towards wanting to fix things. And so that naturally led me into restructuring and turnaround. And so my first job out of school was at Arthur Andersen in the restructuring group. That migrated into another consulting firm doing turnaround and restructuring.
Yeah.
Went to business school. Went to Bain & Company.
How did you know that you wanted to have that? How did you know that you had that mentality of wanting to fix things?
Yeah. I like problems, and I don't want to be in a steady state. And so when there's a challenge, there's a sense of urgency that comes along with a restructuring, and that's where I strive, is where there's decisions have to be made quick, you have incomplete information, and you have to do the best you can with that. And so what I learned early on in my career is if you're decisive and you can take limited data and quickly make decisions, you can get results. And the other side of turnarounds is when you're successful, it's pretty exciting, because the transformation of where you started to where you end is very impactful.
Steady state, that's an interesting concept. Do you think you're at a steady state right now in life?
No. I have 4 young kids. I've got a wife who...
Wait, why would you do that?
4 young kids.
I just said number 2, and I'm thinking, wait a second.
It gets easier.
Why did we do this?
No.
It gets easier because we care less? After 3, nah.
Now what you figure out, it's a little bit like your job. You only have so much time, and so you dedicate the same amount of time to either 2 or 4. To
the assets that are going to produce more in the future?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
The good news is I think I've got 4 keepers, so there are days, but...
So we can come back to that, because I really like that concept of just the steady state and not wanting to do that mentality. But what did you do at Bain? How long were you there, and what were you doing?
So I was at Bain 5.5 years, and unbelievable training ground in terms of ability to communicate, translate heavy analytics into PowerPoint, and then verbal communication to drive change. The challenge for me at Bain was you're an advisor, you're a consultant, you're not a doer. So time at Bain, great training, great formal skill set developed, but unsatisfied in that you weren't able to actually implement change. So we were fortunate. Bain started a turnaround restructuring.
So here's your 50-page deck. I don't even know if it's all this hard work and deep insights that I worked until 2 a.m. on.
Right, with a great team.
And then doesn't go anywhere, or who knows.
Well, it does, but you're not the one driving it. And so, look, I think where Bain is excellent is they excel at practical outcomes and results, and ensuring and helping push that through. The challenge is you're not the one doing it. And so your job is to drive through facts and through motivation, but ultimately you're not a decision maker. And that to me was unsatisfying. Yeah. Very unsatisfying. We were fortunate. We built a turnaround and restructuring practice. I got to be part of that, where we went into companies. It's the first time I got to really be an executive and be interim management and run businesses and make decisions, and that was invigorating. And at that point is when I realized I wanted to do it in a different way, and private equity was that path to do it in a different way.
So what was after Bain?
So then the Gores Group. Again, I feel like I've had unbelievable mentors. Alec he's a visionary. He started a type of investing that's turned into something very different today, and was at the forefront of private equity. I can remember sitting in his office at times and him saying to the group, we need to get back to doing deals like we used to do. And the team resisted it. Everybody was ready to do typical private equity deals.
Yeah.
And Alex's view was, no, we shouldn't do anything typical. That's not what got us here. And that's part of why the firm, he went a different path at the end and wanted to get away from it, because he didn't like that typical model.
I've never actually learned the Gores story.
Sure.
This area in Los Angeles with Platinum, Gores, Marlin.
There's probably 25 spinouts now, and spinouts of spinouts of spinouts.
But what's like? I mean, it seems like all roads lead back to
Yep.
a few.
Yep.
But like, what is the Gore story? Like, where's Alec from?
Alec
like,
grew up
how
in
did
Michigan. Actually, not dissimilar to where I grew up. His family was his father owned a grocery store, and he's a visionary in that he saw an opportunity to solve needs for businesses, which is what we're trying to do at Pacific. There are certain businesses in private equity, typically they want to buy a good business, improve it, and sell it for more. Alec's view was, I want to buy something that someone doesn't want and find value in it, and then create value.
How
for
did he
myself.
start it? It's from Michigan. Wasn't
He
there a
moved
time
out-
when the
he
family
started
moved to
a-
like Lebanon or?
Well, he's of Lebanese descent.
Wasn't there a time when they moved?
I can't say I know
Okay.
his whole history in that regard. He started it because he had a computer company, and he was selling computers out of the trunk of his car.
Yeah.
And he got people to believe in him. A large company bought that from him for, I want to say it was $1 million, which was a huge sum for him and his family back then. And he realized, wow, this is interesting. There's a lot of data that I got from these computers. And a couple of years later, that company called him back and wanted him to buy it back. And so he realized companies were divesting assets and that they did. And he was like, great. I think he bought it back for $1.
He didn't have like a finance background, and it was
not that I'm aware of. No formal education.
Yeah.
He went to Central Michigan, and neat guy, and still is involved in that university. But he never wanted to settle for the status quo. He is not. He's obviously a visionary, but some of the things that I've learned from him, took from him, is the idea that don't do what everybody else is doing, and we're not. He put his firm in LA for a reason. He didn't put his firm in New York. When he put his firm out here, there was no private equity universe in Los Angeles. It was
when did the Gores group like really?
So
when did this area? Like, when did LA private equity kind of really start getting off the ground?
So I'm not
Pretty
from
infancy.
here, but Alex started in the early '90s and was very, very successful. He made billions, whatever the number is, pre-fund. Then he raised a fund, I believe, in 2001, and successively went from there into 3 funds. But his passion was always pre-fund, and that's, if you look at Tom Gores, who obviously spun out of Gores to form Platinum. Tom spent 5 or 6 years pre-fund before he invested, and then you've got Dave McGovern out of Marlin, and then there's, again, I can name 15 spinouts now between all.
When you say visionary, like, why was Alec a visionary? What does that really mean? Let me rewind. It's like, when you say visionary, like, why was Alec a visionary?
I wasn't there, but when I interact with him, Alec never looked at a problem the same way everybody else looked at it. Alec was never constrained by spreadsheets and management team. Alec at his core is a poker player, and so he's a great deal guy, which means he can read a situation and without having to see numbers on a page can tell you if it's a good deal, because he can read the other guy. And that's different than a lot of the other firms where it's very analytically driven. Of course, Gores transition and the analytics were part of it, but if you look at the real success, it was when Alec was involved and reading situations, and when they strayed away from some of that success is when Alec pulled back, because he was uninterested, because he didn't want to sit in a 2-hour investment committee review meeting talking about this spreadsheet and the growth rate for this division in 4 years from now. That didn't interest him.
So when you think about that and trying to extract a leadership principle or discussion, like, how do you make sure that your secret sauce, like the Chris secret sauce,
well, it's the team, but
how do you make sure that what Alec had in being a visionary, that intuition, making sure that the team is developed around you?
Yeah. Well, I think one of my observations of funds and Gores to some extent is when you hire from outside with different DNA, that starts to transform your firm. And so what we're doing at Pacific is we're building our team, and it's the Diversis guys who are spin out from Gores. they spent 6 or 7 years getting to the point. I think they just closed on 250 million. Yeah, so they're really neat, dynamic guys. And they're I saw a video that they posted about brick by brick. Did you guys have something to do with that?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Well, that resonates in a way to me. I mean, when I heard them say that, it was like, that's right, because it's not, you can't just bring people in to do this. And we're fortunate we brought a senior person in, Jason, who came from Platinum, was in the small cap fund, was with Tom Gore's pre-fund, so he knows
really
the
understands
model.
the DNA. And
I had the fortune of having a relationship with him before. He lives in the neighborhood, but our other guys, we have to build them up over time. And so we've got Mike, who's been with me almost from day one, within the first 3 or 4 months. Sun Capital, similar background, but we've done 11 transactions in 25 months, 26 months. So we've been very busy. He sees exactly how we think, how we do them. Obviously, he's adding his piece to it. And then our associates, we promoted a guy this week, Johnny.
I saw this morning.
Yeah, the vice president.
Johnny to VP, and then you also brought in
a head of business development. But it is about building them so they see how we do deals. Our deals are not the standard. We're not getting a book from a bulge bracket investment bank that a private equity funds own the company, and you're saying I'm going to pay 8 times, 9 times, 11 times for a business. Our deals have hair on them. There's something that isn't right, that someone's trying to not necessarily run away from a problem, but they're trying to divest of something. Whereas most private equity firms are buying something that someone's selling. We're buying something someone's divesting, and it's a different mentality.
What are the different triggers that you go through when someone says there's hair on this deal? That's, I guess, is that AKA it requires more thinking than other people are willing to do?
Yes, so it's a risk tolerance in my view. Some folks, it's if you're in a large fund and you have to present to an investment committee and something you don't know a lot about, you may be uncomfortable. You may be uncomfortable bringing something forward. In deals where there's things that are aka hairier, there's more risk for things to go wrong. And if you're trying to be steady down the fairway to get promoted to the next level to make partner, you're not incentivized to take risks. You're just not. Your goal is to make, call it somewhere between a 2x and a 3x or whatever return your fund size you need to allocate and write towards. That's not our goal. We're assessing risk and taking the reward commensurate with it, and some don't work out.
How are you able to assess a difficult situation quickly?
Yeah,
It's
stages.
Maybe rewind like 5 years ago,
Yeah.
10 years ago, and like I had no clue what the hell I was doing
Yep.
with this special situation. But like now, I've identified these 3 things, and I can do from it takes 2 weeks or 1 week or 1 minute, and I just know instantly. I know how do you have the Alec intuition?
Well, I wouldn't say I have Alex. Alex in a class of his own. That's why he's a billionaire. But there in a deal, there's multiple facets. What's the motivation for the seller? What is their appetite to transact? What is the company's challenge? Is it a pension issue? Is it a market issue? Is it a company-specific operational issue? Some things you can fix, some things you can not. At Gore's, we invested in a business. It was an envelope business with the idea that we could consolidate and ride the wave down. That's a macro headwind. We've made a decision at Pacific. We're not going to invest in businesses where you face macro headwinds because you can't change things that are macro. It's very hard. I can change things that are micro.
Investment philosophy is trying to say, okay, I know it's going down, but I'm going to assess how and when.
And guys have made money doing it. And how can you the decline curve and that what they call a melting ice cube. Can you get that correctly and base it? I'm not smart enough to do that. I'd rather and it's also, to me, we're about building things. We're about, when we look at our businesses and I think our next evolution beyond what Alec and several of the spin-outs from Gore's, they like hairy situations, and then we really focus on growth. So if you are 4 platforms today, 11 transactions, we're doing add-on transactions to drive growth. We're investing heavy capital equipment, CapEx, if the business needs it to grow, which is a little bit different than some private equity, and certainly different than what Alec and team started on, which was we're going to divest, carve out, stabilize, and then sell. Our view is we're going to divest, carve out, stabilize, and then we're going to grow. And then we may hold it, we may sell it. We don't have a defined timeline. We have a very flexible model, and we're not we're going to maximize return for the investors, which is in most cases the team.
So let's put a big X on that. No, not big X on what you just said. But let's rewind, and can you make that point again about how you make decisions? Like, first, look at is there a motivated seller? Two, is there, just kind of rewind that.
Yeah, so good.
So let me ask a question. Cool. So like, how do you quickly make decisions and assess whether or not this type of deal is for you?
Yeah. So it's experience. But is the seller the right seller? Are they motivated? Does the company have a secret competitive sauce that we can exploit? It doesn't have to be something remarkable. It doesn't have to be Apple, but it has to be something that we can exploit and build on. And then finally, is there value if we do that? And can we add value beyond exploiting that to take a business to the next level? You take all of those back and you say, okay, now, is someone else willing to put the work in to do this and take the risk and understand the odds of the transaction? Can you get it done? So when you're a small firm, I think we're up to 8 folks now, but when you're a small firm, you have to pick your bets. And I think one of the things we've been really successful at is we've picked our bets well. We don't waste time on things. Our broken deal fees across 11 transactions are very, very low. Very, very low, because we are focused on getting deals done. When we sign an LOI, we're 11 for 12 when we sign an LOI and getting it done. And the one is, it's still outstanding. It's gone 12 months. I think we will get it done here in the next 60 days. We commit to it. We keep integrity around transacting, but we're going to pick our right situations, and we're not going to spend time on stuff that we can't win. We don't have the luxury of doing it. It's what scares me about getting bigger. People want to do things and keep busy. I don't want to do things and keep busy. I want to do things and create value. And so I'd rather my team go home at 2:00 than spend time on something that isn't productive, because it's a bad habit, and it's about creating good habits.
What do you think are your best habits? Either individually, as a firm.
Yep.
Maybe can you give me, what do you think is one personal habit that you have that has made you effective, and what do you think is one firm habit?
Yep.
As part of the culture?
So I'll talk about the firm first. I think within the first year, I was getting caught up on things, whether it was personnel with our portfolio companies and busy, and obviously impact on family life, impact on personal life, and made a decision that we are only going to spend time on things that create value. Our job is to create value. Obviously, we want to do that in a way that's respectful to the team, respectful to our partners, but it is about creating value. And so if it does not create value, why are we spending time on it? And that is culturally, I consistently challenge our team. Why are we doing that? Why are we spending time on it? Is it creating value for ourselves and our shareholder or our investors? If it's not, stop doing it. We don't have to do what every other firm does. We're not trying to be every other firm.
Do you say that to your 4 kids, like, that's not creating value, no bueno?
Well, my goal with them is for them to be competitive, 1, to be compassionate, 2, and then focus on things that drive results.
What do you think your, like, the family values are? And I'm asking this because I'm also going through this. My wife and I are thinking, like, wait a second, there are no guiding principles, guiding values that we've clearly thought about.
Look, we're faith-centered in our family, and that's guiding. For us, our family is a critical piece. So we like to be together. We like to do things together, and then my wife is an unbelievable woman, but her belief and our belief is, if you do something, do it well. Look, our kids are young. If they don't want to play a sport, don't play it. They're very active, but if they're going to do it, go out there and do your best. It's not okay to not do your best. That is not something we can tolerate. And you don't have to be the best at it. You just have to do your best. I was never a great student. I was never a great athlete, but my parents' responsibility, and I came from a big family, was to do your best, and that is what we want our kids to do. Your best, and do it with compassion, because this is a hard world.
Is there a time when those principles that you have brought into the office, or into when you're interacting with founders, like an example of compassion? And maybe either with the current portfolio, like a founder or manager was going through something, and you realize, you took a moment, you paused, took a breath, like, okay, this is actually who I am. Like, I need to do this differently.
Look, it's an evolution for us as a firm and as an individual to try and be more compassionate. I'm an analytical guy, and so that doesn't come naturally, and I have the benefit of my wife, who is analytical and compassionate. She has the EQ and the IQ. I think I was born with neither, but been able to kind of patch it together. But for us, our teams at our companies, they're our partners. I can go in at Cameron Ashley, which is a 680 person firm. I will venture to say I know 500 people on that team, and they're all important in treating, not talking politics, but one thing. Trump has that show where he says you're fired, and our kids walk around and say, "Did you fire someone?" I said, "That's a person's life we're talking about. You don't treat people that way. They may not be in the right role, and that doesn't mean we don't make tough decisions, because we do, and we have a history of having at times to change out management. But there's a respectful way to do it, and there are people involved on the other side. And so for us, it's just an evolution about treating people the right way. It doesn't. Again, we don't want someone in the wrong role. If you're not successful, we're going to move you out. But there's a personal side to it.
What was it like starting the firm? So 2017.
Yeah. So
sounds like
you've
a great
asked me
idea.
you asked me why I started it, and the real answer is I used to commute to Beverly Hills from Manhattan Beach, which is 45 minutes to an hour and 10 minutes.
You're like,
and
nope.
when you start your own firm, you can put your office wherever you want. So it started in my garage, which was a very nice commute, and now it's less than a mile away in Manhattan Beach. And unfortunately, we've almost outgrown where we are today with the team. But a big reason was lifestyle, and not because we're working less, but because it's focused on the things you want. Alec Gore's group was going through a transition. I had a neat opportunity to stay. We were not aligned around the economics, which he's probably right, but so he said, I'm going to prove it to myself. And I was fortunate enough to have a spouse who was like, go for it, chase your dream, and we'll make it work.
Was there a particular conversation where that happened? It was July 17th, 3 p.m.
No, I don't think that's not a decision you make rashly, especially when you have 4 kids, because it impacts a lot of people. What we came to, and I would say several times a month, people call me and say, how did you decide to do this? What are you thinking? And my first question to them every time is what does your spouse say? Because you can't get through this without your spouse, because it's hard, right? You're failing most days, and it's hard. So if you have support and they're bought in, you can get through it, and you will. But if you don't, not having them support you is a challenge.
Why do you feel that you felt like you were failing most days? Because the perception of go off.
Well, this job's not, in buying companies and fixing them, we're successful in 1 in 100 that you buy, that you can get done. And then when you buy it, boy, then you say, what did I just do? And now I've got to go fix it. And this is the second thing once people have started, the second thing I say is, are there days you just don't want to answer your phone? And everyone says, yes. And then I say, the good news is if your phone stops ringing, then you have a problem. Because you either don't have anything going on or people are lying to you. And if you don't have anything going on, then you don't have business. And if people are lying to you, you're going to lose your business. So you want people to call you with your problems. That's why you're here. That's why you want to be the boss, so you can deal with the problems. That's why we have a team, so we can deal with the problems. So there was a period of time where it's just hard because you're always having to deal with something that didn't work. And so now today, you're used to things not working, and you just put your head down and you fix it and you move on to the next one. My phone will ring all day long and through the night, and people know I get up early, so it starts about 5:30. And I know it's going to be a busy day when my phone starts ringing before 5:30, and it's because there's an issue that we have to work through.
What's your morning routine? Because one of the things in being exposed to a lot of Tim Ferriss content, one of the consistent threads throughout everyone is they have a morning routine.
Yeah.
Which I don't, so I'm trying to explore this.
Yeah, no, well, you have young kids, so it's different with young kids. Your morning routine is just to survive. It's evolved. I like to be up early. I like to be up between 5 and 5:30. I spend about 10 minutes thinking about what I need to get done for the day. So I read something, tackling your biggest issues first, and I try and do that. So what are the challenges I have to face that day, and how am I going to get to them as soon as I can? So I spend about 10 minutes doing that. Then I'll either catch up on emails or read the news for about another 15 minutes. By 5:30, 5:45, I work out. I try and be home by 7, which is when my children are getting up. Spend an hour with them, take them to school at 8:10, and then head to the office. So, and then then from there it goes any number of directions.
In the past year, what is one habit that you've either reinforced or created that's had a big effect on your life?
Well, there's one thing that I struggle with. I think sometimes when someone brings a problem, the best thing you can do is not do anything, let them solve it. And sometimes the best thing you can do is jump on it immediately and fix it. And finding that median is hard. We have great teams across all of our portfolio companies, and they are able to solve problems. But people will come to you because they want your assurance. And so empowering them to do it and knowing when to plug in and not to plug in is the hard part. And so we, as a team, balance that. When do you let them figure it out? And if they make mistakes, you work with them. And when we make mistakes too. And when do you jump in quickly and say, we're going to manage this, take control of this, and take it on? And that's the balance. And I think the further I get away from startup, and we've been very fortunate in terms of our investments and success, it's easier to say, okay, the team can take this on and we'll recover if it's wrong. When you start, everything matters because it all has to go right. And you realize it doesn't all go right, but enough has to go right.
What does the next phase for you look like?
It's a good question.
So we're done with startup phase.
I think I always joked when you start, you're just trying to figure out what you're going to do the next hour. And then about 6 months in, it was like, okay, I can plan for the week a little bit. What am I going to do this week? Then it was, okay, now I'm 3 months in. I can look quarter by quarter. My goal is I know tactically what I have to get done. I can't create a strategy. You have people on your team that aren't right, but it's all you can afford, or you're not even paying them and they're just helping you. So you're in a weird spot where all you're trying to do is get enough critical mass and things done to get there. Then I would say a year and a half ago, okay, let's take a breath. What are we thinking we want to be when we grow up? And grow up meaning 6 months from now, a year from now. And so we're in that phase. We just finished our year-end goal session, which we do as a team, and then we have each of our portfolio companies do. What do we want to be? We want to be a differentiated investment firm that maximizes returns. We want to be focused on creating value. I want to create value for myself, my family, and my team. That's what we want to do. What form that takes, I don't know that we have an answer yet. Will we raise a fund? Maybe, ultimately. We have no challenged access to capital at all. We've been fortunate. We have our own capital base. And if we need outside capital, it's there because of the returns we've generated. So we're there as, you and I started talking, there's 6,000 firms in private equity today. There's over $750 billion of dry powder. I want to make sure if we raise capital, and when we raise capital, we have the team to put it to work effectively. Our model is not, again, getting a bunch of books that are well-run businesses and bidding them and paying the most. And so if we don't train people how to do that, then we're gonna make mistakes. And so we have to continue to build our team, as Ron and Kevin said at the Versus, brick by brick, so that we can put capital to work effectively. And we've gone through our growing pains, and part of what's been great about adding to our team is we're putting some of the processes in place so that we can scale. And so that's what we continue to work on. We have the infrastructure, we've got a great office, we have the IT, we have the compliance components all done now. We've got a large enough team. We can run 2 and 3 deals at a time, plus add-ons, and work with our portfolio. So we're building all of those muscles, but we're not in a rush, because rush to take capital so I can rush to put it to work, so I can then rush to raise a bigger fund. I'm not convinced that drives the most economic return.
So this makes me think of a number of things. One is, how much happier do you think you would be, your team would be, investors would be in a fund structure? What are you actually optimizing for in terms of lifestyle? And then the second question is your current structure actually what is best for this next economic cycle?
Yeah, so the first point is, look, our team wants to be challenged, as do I. We want to be successful and we want to make money. And whatever structure we can do that in is best. Look, if you look at private equity, there's an evolution going on around long-dated funds, and that resonates with me. Folks, historically, you sell your best assets because you can take a mark, which means you can raise more money, and you hold on to your worst assets. And then you raise more money so you can go try and find a good asset to buy. That feels counterintuitive to me. what feels right to me is you find a good asset, you invest behind that asset, which is what we're doing. We're doing add-ons, we're doing greenfields, we're focusing on organic growth. And I would rather put 50 or 60% of our capital behind something that we know and understand. So think of it as you're a blackjack player, which I'm not a big gambler. You're at the table, you showing 11, the dealer's showing 6. You want to double down. You want to put more money around something you know. And that's what we're trying to do as investors. And then we want to hold that and keep it rolling and keep, look, at the end of the day, there's return on multiple MOIC and there's IRR. It's all about yield. People are chasing yield, and private equity's turned into terminal value and exits to create that yield. There can be great yield from good portfolio companies as well, and that yield can be more consistent and longer term. So we don't, back to the blackjack example, we want to place bets where we know, and every time you do a new deal, it's a bet. It's a new set of cards. You can do as much diligence as you want. You're going to be wrong sometimes. But if you own a business, you have a team, you understand the ecosystem around it, you can then say, geez, I'm not comfortable. I'm not going to bet more here, or I am comfortable and I'm going to put more capital down. And that's our model, and that's our belief, and that tends to be more long dated. So look, I don't have illusions that a first-time fund is going to be able to go raise long-dated capital. So we're going to do it a different way. And when we have the track record and we prove it and we're ready, we'll find the right structure. The beauty is with the independent sponsor model, the long-dated fund, the individuals who are willing, and the capital bases that are willing to back individuals just with the pool of capital. There's plenty of flexibility beyond this 2 and 20 private equity model that I think creates some perversion in incentives.
Do you think that in this next cycle there's going to be a complete restructuring of how people think about models, the fund structure?
I don't, because it's so ingrained, but I'm not an expert on it. What I know is there's $750 billion that needs to go to work. It's dry powder. It's the most it's been. The last time we peaked was in 2008, 2009 from a dry powder, and that's now come back, and I think it's 40% higher than it was then. I think the model's too entrenched, and it does work to a certain extent, but we don't want to be that. I don't think anybody who's a visionary and is trying to evolve an industry goes and chases what everybody's been doing for 30 years. We're not going to win at that. We have to approach it differently. We're smaller, we're nimbler, we have a different view on things.
Let's do the story about why you started again, because the current interpretation is, I just want to live closer. All right, founders.
Well, look.
I want to move from Beverly Hills down to Manhattan Beach. Well, but because I think it is definitely legit, but also it sounds like the reason why you do is you love what you do.
I'm passionate about it. But I have 4 boys, and I didn't ever want to look back and be able to say to them, I didn't go for it. I could say to them, I didn't pull it off. I could go get a job somewhere making a decent living, and it would be fine, and my wife and I were okay if that was the outcome. But I wanted them to say, geez, he chased it, he went for it, and he did it. And if he didn't, it would have been hard on my ego, but we would have survived as a family. So that was a motivation. And then it's fun to be the boss, right? I mean, I don't want. There's responsibility with it, but it's fun. I like being the boss. I like being able to make decisions and use my experiences and team's input to make decisions. Some people view it as a burden to have the consequences of the decision. I view it as it's exciting. It's invigorating.
Yeah. On that point, I think one of my key motivators for entrepreneurship actually comes through freedom.
Yep.
The freedom to create in the directions that you want.
Yep.
The freedom to test things when and where and how you want.
Yep.
And there are definite downsides, because sometimes you can't have the resources to try bigger things, or it takes so much longer to get there.
Well, how do you make the trade-off of investing to grow but trying to be comfortable? And that's, as an entrepreneur, we struggle with it every day. I'm sure you guys do as well.
I struggle with a lot every day.
Well, yeah, you're at the beginning stages.
Here's the list. I got a lot more right here.
That's right. But if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? I mean, that's what we always say. If it was easy, then everybody would do it. And it's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. It wouldn't be fun if it was easy. It's like giving someone something. If you give them something, they don't respect it. They don't value it. It's part of the problem with our society today. People want you to give them something. Once you get something, someone gives it to you, you don't earn it, you don't care. But if you earn it and you work for it, then you care and you think differently about it. And that's that's the fun thing about being an entrepreneur, and that's what our team collectively, I know it's me here, but our team has done. We've all earned it and wanted it. We've been through the trials, and so it means more to us.
Is there a charity or volunteer stuff that you individually or the team or the family does that you like really care about?
So it is.
By the way, your point was absolutely awesome on the entrepreneurship. I just want to make sure my squirrel brain doesn't forget about the.
We got it on video, so you got that going for it. But so that's an evolution that my wife and I are in the process of working through. So you spend so much time when you start a business, it's all your focus. And we've been incredibly blessed and mid to halfway end of last year and said, what are we going to get passionate about? And we're working through that, and I think over the next, and it's going to be something that I think we're going to do together as well, which I'm excited about. But there's a lot of things that we're passionate about, whether it's and the military and our portfolio companies are heavily involved in certain things, and how to help vets and the sacrifices they've made. There's other things within our community that LA struggles with that we're trying to decide where do we think our skill sets can be most levered, because it's not just about money, which is helpful, but it's about we both have passions and talents. We know we can make a difference.
And just making donations and throwing out there doesn't really mean it. Yes, it helps them, but it's also like it's not sustainable, because if you are donating plus actually adding your unique skill sets and analyzing things, and you're passionate about the cause, and
we know that's the one thing I have been able to build the confidence that I can do this in multiple areas because we've now done it. What are you passionate about, and then taking that skill set and doing it. And so I'm excited for the next journey. We haven't figured it out yet, but it's certainly on our list.
What does your wife mean to you?
Well, I mean, she's the basis of our family. Together we are. So she means everything. So
how do you keep things with 4 kids? Married. How long have you been married?
12, 13 years. I think we were going through the math. We've been dating for 15 or 17 years, so a while. We met in college, and it's a blessing. How
do you keep things together? With, that's one of the things I've been kind of working through now is, the first 2 years of startup life, I was just gone.
Yeah,
and
you are.
And this year, coming out on year 4. It's trying to figure out how we're more integrated.
Yep.
So it's not that. So we feel like we're doing this together.
Yep.
Not just divide and conquer.
Right. Yeah. I don't know that I can give you any giant words of wisdom here. I think it's a work in progress. The thing that I think we continue to strive for is how do you integrate? Because to your point, it can be very tactical, and you can be focused on your profession. She can be focused on her profession, and we can be focused on the kids. But how do we integrate? And I think that's through church, that's through our family, that's through our community, that's through charity. Those are the things that we have to find to bring together, and it's a work in progress. It is an absolute work in progress, but it's also part of the journey and part of the fun is working through that together.
The work in process idea is interesting because so much of how I think we feel is that we want a final product, and then whether it's relationships, our team, or with business, it's I think an acceptance that life is a work in progress.
Yeah, it never stops. That's true with the firm. That's true with your family. That's true with your wife. It never stops. And I think one thing I'm fortunate, and I think it has there's certainly everything has a negative side. Is I'm okay with discomfort, and I'm okay with conflict, and so. But out of each of those comes growth. Some people are less comfortable with uncertainty and discomfort. For me, I'm able to put it away and focus on the next thing and come back to it. And I think that's been a big positive for me. But it's never done. It's never done.
That's good. This is awesome. Let's you want to go get some footage back there, and then we can just do some. We can cut this.
So it's